Today, let's talk about some ways to get you back into your creative hobby. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and I think one of the best parts about having a hobby is it gives you something to do on the side. But sometimes with that, especially when schedules get busy, there's a lot going on, social media doom scrolling, you can get into this thing where you don't really want to do your hobby. And I know for me, I went through about like a month or so where it just seemed like there were so many things going on that I wasn't able to focus on sewing. And so I did some of these tips to get me back into sewing and figuring out why didn't I want to sew anymore. And so I thought I'd make this video whether you are sewing or you have some other hobby. We're going to be making a scrunchie today and then grab whatever project you're working on. And we're going to be talking about some ways to get your creative juices back to get you back into your hobby. So the first thing that I would highly recommend is see why don't you want to do that hobby anymore. So if is it something that you've just been so busy you haven't had time to focus on it? Is it that you don't really like your space where you are doing your hobby? Is it that it's gotten too expensive and you just don't have the funds for it right now? Or is it truly something where you're just not into it anymore and that's okay too? For me, I realized that I wasn't really able to sew because there were so many other projects that I was doing outside of sewing. I wish that making these videos and patterns was my full-time job, but it's not. And that just really took away from the time that I had to sew because by the end of my workday, I was getting tired. So once I realized that that's what was causing my disconnect, it was a lot easier for me to figure out ways to make time to do sewing or seeing where could I make time here or there. So once I figured out that I just didn't necessarily have the time for sewing large projects, and that was really what was holding me up, what I ended up doing, and I feel like this can help a lot of people as well, is I tried to find small projects that would be very quick for me to make. So great example here is the scrunchie. I knew that doing a small project here or there would let me get back into sewing. It didn't take up too much time, and it just didn't feel as overwhelming as having like a really big project to do. So I kind of focused on that. And then once I came up with a few smaller projects, it seemed easier for me to get back into my hobby. So I would highly recommend no matter what project you do, maybe just look at some smaller projects so that it doesn't seem as big of a task. And while I do love to make scrunchies, there are some other projects that I just absolutely love to make. So depending on what your hobby is, I would highly recommend to also just look over what are projects that you love to do within it. For me, especially if I am trying to get back into sewing, one of the things that I absolutely love to do is to make serger only projects. So using knit fabrics and just quickly whip up something on my serger. So that's also kind of a go-to of mine when things just seem really busy and I feel like I don't have time to focus as much on what I would like to do with sewing, is I'll just find some serger only projects. So figure out whatever that type of project is for you so that you're able to go through, whip up something really quickly, and you're just able to kind of have fun again with your hobby, making it fun for yourself. Sometimes, though, it can really seem hard to put the time and effort into starting a whole project, especially if you don't like the hobby at that moment. So, another option, and this is something that actually I do a lot, and I find if anything, it then helps me kind of clean out some of my stuff, is I take out for sewing all of my fabrics. I have multiple boxes of fabrics. You may have seen them in different videos at different points. I love to go through and just see what fabrics I have. Partly because it lets me remember some of the fabrics I may have forgotten about, especially when you start to collect a lot of craft supplies over time, but also it can just kind of let you see what new projects do you want to work on, or maybe there's items in there that you no longer need and you can donate them to some sort of charity or hobby store, just so that it kind of takes up less space for you, but it also kind of gives you that ability that you got something accomplished and done. So I would highly recommend, just if you really do not want to start a new project, there's nothing that you can think of at the moment, just try playing with all of your craft supplies and see what you have out and see if that helps kind of spark your desire to want to work on something, to work on a new project. For example, I took out all of my Halloween fabrics when I was looking at this, and I saw that I had just this little bit left of this ghost fabric, which was perfect to make into a scrunchie. Then I would say, really, kind of the last piece of advice that I would say is if you really find that you are not liking your hobby, see if it is something to do with just the space that you are doing it in. So, over the summer, I was having issues wanting to sew because the room that I was in was getting hotter. So, it's just something that the room that I have all my sewing supplies in my house gets warmer than the other rooms in our house, especially during the summer. And it was making me not want to be up there because it was already hot. And what we ended up doing was I moved some of the furniture around. You may have seen in some of my videos that like the sewing machine's on the opposite side of the room now. Things are just kind of changed and that just allowed more airflow and then the room got cooler and I was able to sew more. So wherever your space is, see if just maybe having a new space to do your hobby, if you have that available, may help you get a little bit more excited about getting into your hobby, whether that's painting, crocheting, knitting, sewing, whatever you do. Having that nice, bright, open space, if it's available to you, may help you get back into it. So here is my completed scrunchie. I had a lot of fun making this. It was really quick. If you are somebody who loves to sew, I do have a full pattern available on making scrunchies. The last thing I will say about all of this is sometimes a hobby, it does run its course and you're just no longer interested in it, and that's okay too. I hope that this gave you some ideas though on how to get back into your hobby if that's something you are looking to do. I always find that when I do smaller projects, items that I just absolutely love, or just kind of take that space where I just look over all of my craft supplies, it gets me back into wanting to do my hobby. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching.